Mhm. Hello, everybody, all the Sasquatchers out there. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see and connect with you all. My name is Christina. Let's see, where do I start? I don't even know where to begin to say anything. Who am I? That's a good question. Who am I? So I'm kind of like the one that's never fit into any crowd or community, but at the same time, I belong in a broader kind of sense. So I've created my own label to explain what I do, and I call myself the acceleration expert because I just have this way of seeing things and sharing the way I break things down in such a way that just accelerates people's understanding and integration of all this energy. So you guys can feel when there's all this energy going on, it's like wah, 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 and pressures in the head, your heart's maybe pounding, and then you go back to your life, and then you're like, how do I explain to anybody what just happened, right? So the cool thing is that after you've integrated the energy of what just happened, it could be a month later, 2 months later, a year later, 10 years later, all the epiphanies start coming to you, right? So I'm able to break things down in such a way that accelerates that digestion process, but also bring things forward in a just in a more like, oh, it seems so simple kind of way. So those of you who know me that are in this community that like you come and see me every week, I love to, I'm so glad to see you here. This is awesome. But I also want to put a plug in that every week we do a chat where you bring your questions, you bring your challenges, the things that you're facing on a daily basis. And you ask me questions, and I do the best that I can to bring a liberated perspective to those challenges. And I think we can all agree that these times right now are particularly challenging, especially for those of us who are not part of the mainstream narrative. Yeah. So I welcome you to, if there's questions on an ongoing basis that you really want me to address and going on in your life, I encourage you to check that out. They're called the Lunchtime Chats, and that's on our Lightbody Academy YouTube channel. It's always for free. You just tune in and we'll be there and have a discussion. So dear sister Kelly invited me to come into the symposium and talk about what I might be guided to talk about. And when I was tuning in, talking with the SAS and other beings, they are really, they're excited for humanity right now, but they also understand there's a lot of challenges happening. And they're pretty much just telling me, just go forward and let everybody know that what I'm seeing as far as this awakening being an eminent experience. There's nothing going to stop anybody's awakening process. It may seem like there's challenges, may seems like there's blocks, but on a larger scale, beyond the ego driver, beyond the who you are that's imbuing this biosuit, you've already made the decision. It's already happening. Now that doesn't mean you get to laze out and pig out on Cheetos, sitting on the couch watching Netflix every day. That's not what I'm saying at all. There is a lot of work to be done on the ground because we need to integrate this decision. We need to integrate the word that you have spoken on a larger galactic level of who you are into this very experience. This is how we save each other and our planet. Okay, by bringing all of this reality of who we are on those levels and bringing it to our biosuit and integrating it into our daily lives. As we integrate these pieces within us, the outer world around us shifts and changes to accommodate those very significant changes. Now, dear sister Starshine Shakara mentioned about a story that was shared with her about a tone being introduced to humanity that introduced the fear frequency. Okay, that was a major component to shifting all of this reality. And that happened because the tone was inside. We received it inside, and because it integrated within us, it started to show itself on the outside. Okay, so this is truly an inside game, just like Clifford was saying. This is an inside game all the way. It doesn't matter what is going on the outside. We need to really stay focused on what we do with our time, where we pay our attention, and how we choose to live our lives. Sure, there's really exciting things going on, and we want to be connected into social media, and we want to hear, about these things, but understand that everything that we're hearing on the outside is a crafted narrative. It's something that has an agenda attached to it. It's not like going into the woods and connecting with nature and hearing the chorus of nature, and it's just this interconnected heart song that's uplifting you and shifting your frequency back to something that maybe your heart has longed for long ago. That's not the kind of information you're getting in this outer narrative. That sort of connection only can happen with beings that are heart-centered, that are of the heart, that have all of life in their interest. So those are the beings where the communications, no matter what they're communicating, is going to be something that touches you deep inside. And then you, of course, can continue that communication and building that relationship. And that's what dear brother Brian and Mike are here to talk about. Their extraordinary relationships they have built with these beings that have deeply touched them, touched their heart, touched their spirit, and have integrated them into like their family. Yeah. So many of humans don't recognize nature as being our family. We have this interesting story that has been posed to us by many different narratives, but I'll just say the three major religions. We have Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. There's a story that was introduced to us which told us that we were actually kicked out of the Garden of Eden and we were cursed to forever reap thistles and thorns. Okay, whether you're Christian or not, it doesn't matter. The fact is you had ancestors that may have abided by that belief system and also embodied that as a truth. I resonate a lot with Islamic teachings. I love the Sufis. I mean, oh my gosh, one of the most amazing temples I've ever been to was a Sufi temple in the middle of the Balkan Mountains. One of the most religious experience, if you can call it, I've ever had was being at Blaja Teke, which is an ancient Sufi temple still active to this day, that's built on the side of this mountain with this massive water spring coming out from the mountain. It's pure, the purest, bluest water you've ever seen. It feeds, it's such clean water. You can taste it, like when you drink it, you get the tingles down through your whole body. Okay. And think that this temple has been blessing like a wellspring, this water, feeding all of the villages, feeding everybody in the mountains. So everybody is being nourished and being touched by the information, by the blessings, by the love that's infused in this water. And so those are the kinds of things that I connect with, things that are deeply integrated, not just with spirit, but in the elemental realms as well. It brings it home to the earth, you know. So those teachings from those religions, you know, they played in the Piscean age, they played their role. You know, they were guiding us in a certain way. Now that we're going into a new paradigm, we have to explore being our own water bearers, not doing the following a particular path that's told to us. We have to decide who we are without that. Who are we as children of the universe without those rules, without those constructs that we've inherited, right? So there's a few things there's a few things I want to explain with all this. Let me just take a close look at my time because time can fly. All right. So what I want everybody to leave here from this talk is understanding that what keeps you from connecting, what's blinding you from connecting, and I want you to know exactly what you could be doing about it. You can start right now. You can start today. Okay. So those are the big pieces. Now I have some stories to talk about, but I really want to keep refocusing myself to touch on these pieces. Okay. And I brought some graphics to help me stay on course because there's so many pieces to talk about, as the other speakers have mentioned. There's so many directions. There's so much to put in here. We need to be succinct. So I'm going to go ahead and pin my video and share my screen. Let's see if I can share you guys let me know that you can see this. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. Everybody can see my screen? Okay, wonderful. All right. So before I get into the pictures, I just want to just point out a few things. So the reason why we are blind is actually way simpler than we realize. It's just the journey back to unwinding our blindness means we have to unwind some traumas and things like this that dwell deep within the unknown. And that's kind of why the journey seems so daunting. Okay. So one of the things that's my passion is helping starseeds and visionaries unwind their intuitive blind spots so they can cultivate healthy, autonomous exo-species relationships. Okay, this is a huge passion of mine, and this is everything that we do at the Lightbody Academy. And it's amazing watching people grow out of their blind spots, because the experience is, you've been blind and you've been frustrated with that blindness, knowing that you haven't been able to connect. And then all of a sudden you realize you're connected. And then you realize, oh my gosh, I've actually been connected this whole time. Okay. You guys ever have that experience with some kind of opening, right? Okay. Why does it happen like that? And the reason that I'm discovering, it all has to do with flexibility within oneself. And something that came into my world recently that confirmed everything I do with Lightbody Academy and why I'm so passionate about it was from a dear teacher of mine, actually, that, she kind of disappeared from this realm. She comes back holographically every so often, but her name is Eminent. She used to come into my dreams. I've met her in person, worked with her in intensives. She used to always come in right at the right times with the right information for me. And a lot of the transmissions that I experienced from her, I never could ever touch with my mind. It was way too expansive, but I knew it was there. It was like my inner knowing knew that I was to receive the frequency, digest it, and then pull out the highest truths as I understood it, right? So the way I like to work is very different than how other people I've seen do this kind of thing with dream work or energy medicine or whatever. For the longest time, I kind of thought that's what made me odd, but now I realize that's actually what makes this work exceptional. And what I was introduced, the idea that was introduced back to me from Almeen was through a collection of Palladian fairies. Now we have Sasquatch, elemental beings. We have so many different races of beings of nature reaching out to us, and they're reaching out to us from beyond the veils, from realms that we consider invisible, right? And as that was going on, what I was turned on to was during the fall of consciousness, there were two different kinds of creation. And I'm going to call creation magic, and that's using your intent to create a reality. Okay, that's the definition of magic, is what I'm in here. And during the fall of consciousness, there were two kinds of magic that still existed on this planet. One was the first ring magic, which is you learn tools and techniques using things outside of yourself to create your intent. So that could be ceremonial magic, that could be all different, just use your imagination, all the different kinds of sympathetic magic that you've seen out there or experienced yourself. And what happened is, the reason why that magic was introduced into our consciousness from the Orion galaxy was that we were losing the ability to perceive and swim in the oceans of the unknown. Therefore, unknown perspectives we didn't have just clear access to. We actually had to work out a lot of things within ourselves in order to go dive into the unknown and come back with an empowering story or a healing story of some sort. So this first ring magic was what was used because you didn't necessarily have to be highly evolved in your understanding in order to utilize the spells, the formulas, the stuff like this. And during Atlantean times and Lemurian times, also known Land of Mu, both kinds of magic were used a lot. But then they started to lose touch with forgotten perspectives, and power over dynamics developed by the use of this first circle magic. So this is where power abuses start to come in, and this is where people would do things for personal gain, not with the perspective of the larger scope of life. So the second ring magic was actually an inner magic, where you do not need any tools or anything external. It was purely by diving within and feeling frequencies and opening perspectives within yourself, and you can change creation, have an impact on creation by changing your perspective within. And that was a very special kind of magic that eventually got lost after the final fall of Atlantis. And this, there was a battle between Lemuria and Atlantis that kind of like went on for a long, long time. And the ones that primarily dominated with first ring magic pretty much won the day. And those that were sticking with the second ring magic were retreating more to the inner worlds, to inner earth and in other unseen planes. That's not to say it was all completely forgotten, because it wasn't. You still had beings like Sasquatch and other elemental beings still practicing second ring magic and still reaching out and having connections with humanity. It's just that those relationships dwindled more and more and more and more. So then we eventually lost that perspective of second ring magic. And I can't tell you, just I'm so grateful. I'm practically in tears when I think about it, because all the work that I put into this academy and bringing the people together to work in it in the way that we did, I have to say, we've always stayed so strongly true to that practice of the second ring magic, because it's so empowering to go inside yourself and discover a new perspective, to be able to go into a place of unknown and come out with a story that heals not just yourself, but generations before and after. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to talk about how this actually works, because there's really smart people on this planet that have been mapping brainwaves and mapping the mind. And this is what I realized is the difference between being able to see and communicate with exo-species and not. Okay, so right now I have a graphic on the screen that's showing 6 different kinds of brain waves. All right, for now, we'll forget about the ones in the bottom. So you have beta brain waves, which is active alert when you're planning your day, you're waking up, you're scheduling how breakfast is going to go, the kids are going to get dressed, you're going to get them to school, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. The whole, like, I'm going to get my day done, thoughts that are in your mind. Those are beta frequencies. And then if you have some time to relax and be happy and joyful, and maybe you sing while you make your breakfast for the kids, and you guys speak in poetry on the way to school, laughing and having a jolly old time, then you're successfully weaving alpha waves into the beta brain waves. Okay, so that's putting you in a more relaxed state. If this makes sense how I'm saying it. So alpha beta wave balance is really important to have a happy, alert life. Now, when we start getting into magic, this is where the theta and the delta waves come in. Theta and delta waves are quite literally the brain waves of experiencing the abstract. These are the brain waves that are happening during your dream time. Okay, so when you are in an altered state, if you're in a deep meditation, if you're in dream time when you're sleeping or dream time when you're awake, the theta delta waves are active. Okay, now so when you are wanting to communicate with beings from the unseen realms, fairies, devas, Sasquatch, trees, wind people, stone people, you need to be able to trigger the theta delta brave wave frequency in order to have real-time communications with these beings. But it's okay if that doesn't happen, because it's kind of already known throughout the realms that humans have lost their ability to communicate with the unknown and the unseen. So what happens is that we'll sit there, we'll connect, we'll slow our system down, our parasympathetic response down, and then we'll relax, we'll get into a meditative state. Maybe we'll have a meditative vision or a download, something like this, or some language will come out. Some sort of interaction will happen, but it won't be until way later, after that interaction, does the fuller experience make sense, right? Okay, that's because you are this beta alpha dominance needs to take a back seat to the delta and theta wave dream frequencies. Now, it takes a lot of practice and dedication to allow the dream state frequencies to be active while you're in your waking world, though many of us do it, right? How many times you've been driving down the street and you see a great big Hyperborean on the side of the road, or you know what I mean? You see a big star being standing there. Okay, that's because the theta delta state can be activated while you're in your waking world, right? So there are very specific things you could be doing to encourage this type of brainwave activity. But before I go there, I have another thing I want to show you guys. This was really interesting. This just kind of like came up in my research as I was looking through these things. All right, here's this one, this one, this one. Okay. So you guys wonder why children and young ones can see beings that humans can't? This chart tells it all. I just came across this randomly and I saw it. I was like, oh, this totally explains it, right? That's because the predominant brainwave frequency in a baby and a 2-year-old is delta. Those are dream times, right? The predominant brainwave frequencies when you're between the ages 2 and 6, that's theta. That's also dream time, okay? These from the age of birth to 6 years old are massive learning states. We are like sponges absorbing everything that's around us, okay? So that means if at this time, when we're at this age, if our parents or grandparents are introducing us to magical teachings, to dreamtime teachings, to talking with trees, to connecting with fairies, or even spending a lot of time in the woods, collecting and gathering, okay, we are absorbing the realms of the unseen because that state we have easy access to at that age. It's not until you get to above 12 years old where you start learning, how to be responsible and human in our culture, does that just get cut off. And now you are rewarded only when you are staying within the beta frequencies. You're getting your homework done, you're making it to school, you're making sure you're showering and brushing your teeth, right? You're having your experiences, and you go through the indoctrination system of rewarding beta frequencies. Now, more and more, we're finding schools taking away art and music, which is a shame because those are major access points to helping cultivate delta theta frequencies for the developing mind. So this is something really essential for those of you who have young kids or have grandkids. You want to influence them, keep the creativity going at a young age. When my kids were young, I had this book my mother-in-law gave me. It's, I can't remember the exact name, but it's like how to raise a genius toddler. And the whole book was crafts. Making jewelry, doing paintings, right? Crafts. And I had so much fun, I have to say, when they were young. I was really lucky that I got to stay home with them because they were my children. I was not going to give them up into the system. And luckily my partner agreed. And I got to garden with them and take them hiking. And we made crafts. And it's like the first 6 years of their lives was pretty much staying within the magical world. And now that they're adults, it's amazing. They are so, they still have anxiety and stuff like this that plagues our younger generations, but they have a clarity about them. It's like when they hear something that's not the truth, they know it instantly. They don't know why they know it. They just know it, right? So I do feel extremely grateful that if I could give them anything, I can give them a clear compass to navigate these very confusing times. All right, so let's get into the things that we could be doing on a regular basis to cultivate this brainwave frequencies that allow us to unwind these blind spots and have these exo-species relationships. Now, I'm saying exo-species because this works not just for Sasquatch. This is true with any kind of star being, with even the spirit realm. Spirits that have crossed over or haven't crossed over are still hanging out in the ethers. This is for everything that's in the unseen realms. Okay, and according to the Sasquatch, they showed me that it's not a matter of if, it's when. And really, this movement forward to reaching out to humanity is a major act of compassion, because if we are prepared, we can walk the walk into the awakened world, keeping our biosuits. If we're not prepared, our body cannot handle the shift of the intense electromagnetivity, and we quite literally will go insane or burst into flames, something like that. Okay, so keep in mind, these brainwave frequencies that I'm talking about have an electromagnetic signature. So that means it's influential by standing on a ley line or being in a place of power or being on a vortex, right? It's also influenced by environmental sounds. Like a lot of people have been talking about some of the incursions with sound waves happening within music and other kinds of technologies. Yes, that's absolutely so. But all it takes is you being aware of it and you having good personal energetic hygiene, and you know how to dedicate your attention and awareness to what's important to you, this will minimally affect you. It's only when you're totally inundated all the time can it really truly hijack you. And it does. I've seen it happen. I've seen people completely hijacked, but they're also devoid of heart. You know, they're very into the image. They don't have the love space. Okay. When you have that love space, and I think it was Shakira that mentioned it, that when you have an open, loving heart, that's like a protection in this world. This is absolutely true. Absolutely true. Okay, so let's start getting into things that you can actually be doing. And there are people that are being impulsed to teach these things, which is awesome. I love it when the Sasquatch share something with me and then I start seeing it happening in the greater mass. It's like, yeah. And Kelly, just a funny story, side note. I don't know if I told you this, but after I left the first Sasquatch conference that I went to with you guys, the Sasquatch were like, we're going to come out in a major way. And they're talking about in a 4D kind of way, as in they're going to put a narrative out there into the collective conscious, like mainstream, everybody can touch it. Right. And I was like, really, how are you going to do that? You know, I was like all doubting, like, what do you mean? But then I saw it. Did you guys see the wave of Sasquatch commercials for music bands, for beef jerky, there was another kind of survival drink or something? And like Sasquatch was like in the hearts and minds of everybody that's connected to technology. It was amazing. And, and I really believe that was what they meant about reaching out to humanity as a whole. Because they want to change their narrative, because the narrative before was that they're scary beings. You need to hunt them down. They're going to eat your kids. They're going to eat your dogs, you know, stuff like this. And that campaign completely changed it. It completely changed it. Now people, when they think Sasquatch, they think of him playing a ukulele by the guitar or by the fire, right? They, really re-hijack the narrative. Anyway, but this is how it is when you can work interdimensionally. It's not about having the chain of events. I have to know that person to do this, to do that. No, it's actually being able to plant the ideas in Dreamtime, and other people pick up on those ideas and they think it's their own and they run with it. Okay. The idea of incepting thoughts is something that's how the collective works. You bring thought forms forward. And if there's other people that resonate with it, like their heart is longing for that too, they'll have the idea and start running with it, whether it be poetry or art or whatever. Even like, you know, finding a homeschool group that also can be inspired by the similar kind of thing. And I've seen many moms do that, especially in this area here. I'm in a really rural area. And there's a lot of very independent thinkers here, and the women have stepped up big time. It's amazing. They're just reclaiming the reality for their children. Anyway, let me get to the list of things you could be doing. Number one, and this is my favorite, and this is something that I also facilitate in Lightbody, is connecting with your dream time. Absolutely essential. Dreams are not just dreams. Dreams are beings, the universe at large, speaking to you. Okay. Now, the reason why a lot of them seem irrelevant is because we have a blindness going on. There's a lot of magnetic charges around our belief systems and the stories about what we have happening in our lives and in our relationships. So dreams actually happen in layers. There's the cycling of the dreams. It goes mundane, then there's some psychological insight, and then there's rabbit hole. There's that, but then there's actually layers within that. So many times people would come into a dream lab saying that, you know, a dream was a simple dream, but then we would track it and it goes deep. It goes so deep to the original form of Earth, or deep into the cosmos, into spirit having a direct, profound message for that person. Okay, so dream times, no matter how simple or superficial they may seem, that's just the surface. There's so much more. So I would encourage everybody to spend time connecting to your dream time, spend time cultivating going to bed and having a purposeful dream time, place intent, stuff like this. And if you only remember a tiny snippet, that's all you need. If you don't remember enough to write down, that is just fine. Because remember, creativity really pulls this energy out. So I'm going to use this little postcard as an example. This is something that is so deceptively simple. It's very, very powerful. All right. So say you have a dream and you only have the essence of it, like a feeling of it. Maybe you just have a hue, like a deep purple or something. You start feeling into that deep purple. And then you'll notice there's a movement. And then you keep following the movement, and then it pauses, and then another movement. And there's a pause, and then another movement. And you keep doing this until you feel like you've reached the actual end of the dream, which will be total feeling, a sense, completely abstract. And then you'll be left with a squiggly like this. This holds the energy of that dream time. Okay. You can then look at this throughout the day. You can embellish it, start to color it, you can do other things to it. And then that is you bringing the energy of your dream time into your 3D world and engaging it. Okay. This is second ring magic. Okay. This is not anything the cognitive mind can touch. And that's part of why it's so pure. The cognitive mind cannot get a hold of this and turn it into a polarity story of why I feel bad about this or why, this person should do that. Totally outside of this game. This bypasses the mind completely, but yet still enhances the frequencies. So as you guys know, probably the more intuitive guidance you follow, the more you get. So the more you do this, the more dreams will start to come. Other things that you can spur dreams is sleep on top of books that have a lot of energy, like the Sasquatch Messages for Humanity. Great book. Believe it or not, I've never read it, but I've slept on it and it gives me dreams. So you actually, I'm not completely clueless to the book. I have to say the Sasquatch actually started playing. There was someone who did a, what do you call it? Not transcribe, the opposite. They read the book onto a YouTube video. Do you guys remember this? I think someone mentioned it to me. Anyway, the Sasquatch actually played it on my device, and it's like just spontaneously because they really wanted me to hear the first book. So I did hear the first book in its entirety. But anyway, so you can sleep on books that have a lot of energy that will start churning your dream time. Okay, you can sleep on even stones or something from a sacred place, a stone people, a plant, anything that you feel has jumped out at you, right? In your hike or whatever, you can put that under your pillow with the intent of connecting with that information through Dreamtime. And like I said, the surface information you get is just the surface. It's the facade. It's after when you go in a few layers, do you really start to get to the real big, juicy healing transmissions that can come from that kind of stuff. So Dreamtime, that's a major thing. The next thing, connect with nature. Now, I was recently working with a group of folks that in their country, they're in a really big city and they don't have connections with nature. They don't, they maybe have a tree or, they don't have vast forests to hike like we do. All right. We are so lucky to have the forests that we do, but really all it takes is a single plant, a single tree, a single bird. Okay. And you can connect with nature, and you can connect with them by anything you want to share. And it's about giving, right? It's always about, when you cultivate relationships, you always want to start off with a gift of beauty. Beauty brings so much. And so you can sing to a tree every day that you that's by the bus stop, right? You can read out loud your favorite stories to the trees in your yard or the plants on your patio. Okay. You can leave gifts, which guys already covered, leaving gifts. There's the limit to how to offer things to the holy, which we call it, which is the unseen, is limited only by your imagination. So speak out loud with intent to a plant person or a standing tall or a bird. They will receive you. And that is also going to give you, they're going to talk back to you. And if you don't get what they say, it's going to come to you in dream time. Okay. So nature has a deep, deep connection with us and hears us. Nature is always responding to each other. It's a web of life. Everybody's connected. There's never anything that's an island, even though sometimes we might feel that way. Nothing is an island. When the wind blows, it's impacting many, many things, many beings at the same time. So you can also sing your favorite song into the winds. Your winds will carry it to places. I had this beautiful experience with the winds and on the Front Range in the Rockies when I was living in Colorado. I had a dear friend that was taught the frog song, and she sang the frog song to bring rains so she can have sweat lodges on her properties. And there's a lot of fires in Colorado, as you know, like burn season. It's a major thing. So every time she would want to have a sweat lodge during the burning season, she would spend time singing the frog song to the winds and to the mountains. And wouldn't you know it, every single time she would end up with just enough precipitation where she could have a fire and have a lodge. Okay. Now she's way south of where I was living, and I was walking along the Front Range singing into the winds. And then I took a breath, and the wind started blowing, and I can hear her frog song in the wind. It just brought tears to my eyes. So it was just like, oh, I can hear you all the way up here, Patty. So these things are real, and the more you engage them, the more they come to life for you. All right. The other thing you could be doing is definitely take up seriously your own personal healing, heal your trauma dramas, heal the relationships with your family, with your mom, with your dad, with your grandparents. That is so important. It doesn't matter if they've passed. You can spend time focusing forgiveness and kindness, and you can focus on specific relatives, singing a song of hope and love to them, of forgiveness to them. Okay. This is important because things that are unresolved, when we leave this biosuit that are unresolved and it's staying inside this biosuit and the spirit moves on, some of it the spirit will take with them, but a lot of it, what gets left in the biosuit stays in the heritage, stays in the lineage. So you get to clean that up. You get to clean up that density, and you are starseed. You are a visionary in this family for a reason. So, don't dismiss the power you have to bring healing to the lineages. That's a huge piece to unwinding blind spots, because they'll respond to you. They will respond to you with so much gratitude for helping them. Well, I don't know if I have time to time flies. Okay. I was going to share a story about my dad, but never mind. This is a list. I need to keep going. The other thing is your lifestyle. How you spend your time is essential. Absolutely essential. So if you want to spend, 3 hours watching YouTube before you go to bed, you are completely sabotaging. You're training your brain to stay in beta frequencies, and you're sabotaging your brain's ability to entertain theta, beta, theta, delta frequencies. Okay. So lifestyle has everything to do with the flexibility you have inside of yourself. Know what uplifts you, know what brings you up, know what brings you down, decide accordingly how much bandwidth you're going to spend, know what inspires you, and do that as often as possible. Gather with other groups like this, gather with other people that of open mind and have this awareness, because that's going to enhance your own awareness. For many, many years, part of the homework in a former training that I was doing with the Four Winds was fire ceremony. We had to have, rules, whatever, but I decided I was going to do fire ceremony every new and full moon. It was important to me. And I shared with a friend. And what would happen is that when we were with groups of people doing fire ceremony, we would actually be able to change the frequency of the group and the fire. So the fire was no longer hot. Okay. You only can do that when everybody is in the same frequency, when everybody's in a harmony with the flames. When everybody's in the harmony with the flames, things don't burn. It's called befriending the fire. But this happens with everything. If you all get together and look, and you're at a cliff face, and you both feel, or if you're the larger group, if everybody feels that cliff face is not actually there, it's actually permeable, then you're that much closer to being able to walk through that cliff face. You see what I mean? This is something that is true. It has to be groups of people, though, because we are overriding the given narrative that the rest of the collective has agreed. When it's just you, then it's a matter of creating sacred space within sacred space within sacred space. But when it's you with a collective of people and a collective of other beings, say it's a whole bunch of humans and a whole bunch of Sasquatch and a whole bunch of fairies and a whole bunch of pixies and la 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 la, right? Now that orb that you're in is a magical wonderland. A single thought form can create things because the consensus is there. Okay, we are reinforming the ley lines of the earth, the energy lines of the earth when we're doing that as well. Okay, keep going. And then we have exploring creativity, art, and music. That's a huge piece because that is using your non-cognitive side of your mind. Okay, that's the feminine side. So if you have a really great thing you could do, if you have a beef with your loved one, like you have a difficult conversation that you need to have, and you don't want it to be a heavy conversation, do it in an interpretive dance. I'm serious. Really? Not only will they hear you, they'll be really paying attention to you, but you'll get your point across and they'll be smiling as you do it. Okay. This is a little lesson from the fairies. They want to hear you. They want to understand you. But if you're really harsh and specific and concise, that hurts. It's too strong. It's like being poked with a poker. But if you say your truth in a way of poetry and song, it's way softer. They can enjoy, they can sway while you're telling them what it is you need to say. Okay, so that's a huge thing. Imagination and communication. Do I have 3 more minutes? Yeah. Okay. I just need to get down the list here. Okay. Practice going into the unknown. That is a huge piece. Practice going into the unknown. Go into some place where all eyes are going to be on you and you have no clue what you're going to do or say. Actually, those of us that live life that, you know, we're surfing with spirit do that all the time. But really for an average human, that's terrifying. It's really difficult because we want to have an idea of what's going to happen. How many times are you going to a situation where you don't know what's going to happen and you pull like how many different tarot cards to get a sense, right? Because we need to know. But the more you let that go and just go into it with the child's innocence, the more courageously you're going to be able to go into the unknown and come back with healing stories. Okay. And then the last thing, well, there's a couple more things, but I'm running out of time. Going into channeling light language is an extremely beneficial practice. And also bringing light language to other beings is also equally beneficial for you and the other being, whether they be human or not. And then we also need to let go of this idea of knowing and understanding. Really, knowing and understanding is what keeps things in form. If we can let go of knowing and understanding on a much deeper level, then we can actually see a tree walk. We can actually, see things, do things that we don't imagine them ever being able to do, like a mountain stand up, right? This is held together because we think we know and we think we understand, and we stick to that energetically. We stick to that, and we're not allowing the magic to happen. But as soon as we can let go of this, then all of a sudden the magical world opens up inside of us, and we can dance with it and play with it with so much fun. So,
if you have more to share, go ahead. We got a few more minutes, and I'll play a shorter video in between. That's fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't want to dominate. Oh, yeah. The other thing, inner freedom. What does inner freedom mean? You know, all those rules and ambitions you have because you're with somebody or you're with a group of people, that's lack of inner freedom. Inner freedom is allowing yourself to have whatever thought, have whatever feeling without it having anything to do with anything. Okay. And I have a graphic I want to show you guys because this tells the story so perfectly. Now, have you guys ever seen that movie, Hector in the Pursuit of Happiness? Okay, if you haven't, I highly encourage you to see this movie. This guy is a psychologist, humdrum life, very boring, and he decides he's not happy. He doesn't know why, because he has a gorgeous partner, a great career, makes lots of money, has status, but he's unhappy. So he decides to travel the world and find out what happiness is. This particular scene happens right before he thought he was about to crash land in Africa, but they actually really landed and they were able to walk off the plane. But, you know, he really thought he was going to die in this moment. And that mom and her baby was very calm, singing a song, calming her child. And she imparted him a lesson. It's like, listen, the sky can fall at any moment. You worrying about her freaking out doesn't make it come any faster or slower. Okay. So, so in that he had this epiphany, does this person predominantly bring you up or down? And in this particular situation, she brought him up. She let him let go of the fear of death and just, you know, hope that you land and be with the moment. Right. There's another thing that happened to him when he was in Africa. He was kidnapped by some thugs and almost died. Big, long story, but this is not a violent movie by any means. But at the end of the story, in this part of the movie, he's in a brain scan. They're scanning his alpha, beta, delta, and theta waves, right? And he was extremely let down by a relationship he had some kind of expectation about, and he was upset about it. Like, wow, maybe I'm just a jerk and I don't know. My whole life I didn't realize I was a jerk, right? And he's sitting there having this contemplation, and then all of a sudden he starts remembering his journey over the whole year, and he starts crying and laughing and screaming, and you know, he started reliving all of those strong emotional experiences he had all at once. And on the brainwave scan, he successfully activated all 6 brainwave frequencies by having all those feelings all at once, without the story. You see what I'm saying? He can let his feelings happen without the story going on in his head. He was in his heart for the whole time, recounting everything that happened to him, all of the pains, all the glories, all the beauties, everything. Rather than having this person that and this person this, he felt it 100% purely in his heart, laughed and cried all at the same time, and liberated his brain. So he can have all those frequencies happening at once. Literally, the entire universe opened for him at that moment, and he discovered happiness. So just to tie that all together, you guys, you do you. Just know that your lifestyle and what you choose to spend your bandwidth on absolutely matters. It doesn't matter if you're just 1 minute a day doing something great. That 1 minute can turn into 4 minutes, can turn into 10 minutes, day after day after day. To answer David's question, the movie was Hector and the Pursuit of Happiness. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Hey, can I, before you put the video on,